Hey folks, welcome back. In this video, I want to share with you some techniques for making an illustration montage. Now, the image that you see on the left is something that I amassed from various Creative Commons and public domain images. And the arrows that you see on the left-hand side are the leading lines. Leading lines guide the viewer through a composition. And after many different attempts and different alternate variations, the photo montage on the left is what I came up with, and I used that as the basis for beginning my illustration. And the basic process that I use is as following. I have the photo montage merged into one layer, and then I will draw each character or object on its own separate layer, and then I will position it and get a rough sense of what my layout is going to be. Now, you're watching this video, it's sped up twice as fast. When I worked on it, it was about roughly 25 minutes long, and I sketch fast. It's not really about the speed so much as it is about the thinking process. So the big takeaways here are that I'm using separate layers for each character. I will be using color coding to help characters, stand apart a little bit, and I'm not working in detail. I'm simply blocking out the basic volumetric shapes for each character and capturing the pose. I am not tracing. I am observing and trying to get the basic idea across. This is just my first pass, and this will help me when I now start to take the drawing into a more detailed approach. But this is just generally how I start. It's very rough, it's very organic, and it's very pliable. Nothing is set in stone. Later on, as I work through this montage, I will be making some changes. I might change costumes for some of the characters, or I might add certain elements to characters to make them more interesting, to fit the narrative that I want. But this is just me, you could say, planning out what my composition will be from an illustration standpoint. Now, generally speaking, if you're new to making an illustration montage, it might be easier to start out with photo references and to organize those photo references and scale them. You want to think about focal point, visual hierarchy, and depth. So let's talk about those three components. Focal point is, where do you want the viewer to immediately look when they look at this composition? In this case, it's the figure in the center holding the sword. That's where I want you to look. That's also the largest element in this composition. I've got other elements here that are medium-sized and some that are small-sized. So the larger something is in a composition, the more important it is. Medium objects and characters are important, but they're not as important as the main character. And then the smaller characters, of course, they're less important than the medium and the large characters. So in this way, by bringing all of these elements in and organizing them, I'm able to have a good blueprint to see whether or not my composition is going to work. Now, if you're more advanced, you might start off with thumbnails. But I would argue that even if you are advanced, photo references are not a bad way for you to quickly see whether or not your ideas are going to work. It's kind of fun to look up references. You don't have to use every single pose, and you're not making a direct copy. This is just more along the lines of a guideline. This is a rough first pass of my drawing. And it's not meant to look pretty, but it's just meant to get the point across. Now, as I continue to work with this montage, maybe in upcoming videos, and you can let me know if you want to see more of that, just send me a comment and I'll consider it. I will then take each of these individual characters and I will begin adding details. Notice for the main character, I didn't even put her clothes on. I just basically wanted to capture the pose. And that's another thing too. When you're drawing, you want to keep in mind that you want to draw through your forms. If characters are wearing clothing that obstructs their legs or their arms or what have you, you want to find a way to visualize what the limbs look like underneath the clothes. You can always go back in and add the clothes later on. I start out with drawing with volumetric shapes, and I'm just using this shape language idea to quickly capture things down. I'm not worried about detail at all. Just to try to capture the likeness, play with composition, see if things are going to work. And I also want to make sure that there's some negative space here too. Negative space means that space where the viewer can kind of take a little bit of a visual breather from all the stuff that's going on. You don't want to overwhelm your viewer with every nook and cranny completely filled. This is a little bit different. And this is a montage. So a montage is basically arranging of different elements that have some kind of a unifying theme. Now, I pulled all of these photos from different areas, and when you look at them in the way that they're arranged, there's almost a narrative that's forming. A montage is different from a collage because a collage doesn't necessarily have a specific theme. It's just a random assortment of various people, places, things, etc. But when you organize something in a fashion that it implies a narrative or a specific theme, then that is a montage. So the basic takeaways from this video are: when you're drawing, try to isolate each of the characters in your montage on a separate layer. That allows you to scale and position and rework things as needed. And the other thing too is it's okay to use photo references to help you with the planning part. Now, are you always going to find the exact photo reference that you're looking for? No. And in some cases, artists will actually go ahead and take pictures of themselves. They might, in order to figure out how a character's holding a gun or another prop, they might actually have a toy gun, and they might have someone, or they might set a timer on their camera to take pictures of themselves to capture the specific pose they're looking for. Some artists will even have their own cloaks and capes if they're drawing a superhero comic. You use whatever you need to help you translate those ideas onto paper or a digital canvas. And that's part of the fun part. I really enjoy working with montages because it gives me an opportunity to do some creative problem solving, and it gives me an opportunity to tell a story where before these were all just individual elements that may not have had any context on its own. So this is also a very popular approach, especially when you look at older movies and movie posters. You'll often see movie posters having montages of different scenes that are happening within the film, because in those days you didn't have as many trailers that you could really look at. There was no YouTube, so you had to rely primarily on what the movie poster was promising. So if you see an alien in a movie poster and see people running away, you pretty much have an idea that that's going to happen in the film. So if you're looking for inspiration to draw something new, you don't know what quite to draw, start off with some photos and arrange them in terms of visual hierarchy. Start with some large, medium, and small photos, scale them up, scale them down, reposition them. This way it takes a lot of the pressure from having to figure out what exactly you're working from. And from there, you can always go back through and flesh out your ideas. So give it a try when you get a chance, and I think you'll find it to be very rewarding and very fun, and a really clever way of working. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say about this video. The key takeaway is that the photo montage allows you to study the elements of your composition, to see what's working and what's not working. And then when you're working digitally, you have the advantage of toggling layers on and off. Now, I'll leave you with one last point. Why did I not leave the other layers visible, the other sketch layers visible? Well, it's because it forces me now to have to draw around the other illustrations that I have. So I like to turn off the layers that are not currently active, because it allows me to focus purely on drawing what I want to draw. And then I can go back, turn those layers on. So you'll see me throughout this video toggling layers on and off so that I can actually work independently on the specific drawing that I'm working on. And then I can scale it, transform it, whatever I need to do to see how it fits in with the rest of the composition. So that's the method to the madness. As always, if you find value in videos like this one, definitely give it a thumbs up. I do appreciate everyone who's voted with their subscriptions and thumbs ups. Thank you so much for doing that. if you want to see more of this content, please let me know. This is something that I really enjoy talking about. And if you want to see me continue this composition and finish it out, I'm kind of, wondering whether or not long format videos, i.e. something that's greater than 10 minutes, are worth people's time. I have no idea. So do let me know in the comments, and let me know what you think of this video. And we're slowly coming to the conclusion here. We've just got a few more characters to draw. Yeah, it's been fun. And I'll let you watch the rest of it in silence. Thanks for watching, everybody.